Are you struggling to figure out how to get school in? Maybe you're home and your kids are home from school because of the coronavirus and you're trying to figure out how to put together a schedule that works for them to be schooling from home. Or maybe you have tried lots and lots of different schedules that other people have put together for their homeschools and none of them seem to work. I am going to share with you today some very simple steps to put together a very simple homeschool schedule, because that's what you need to start with, is simplicity. You can always build from there, but if you start slow and steady, you can build up to a much bigger homeschool schedule if you want to, or you can stay right where you are with the simple stuff. Hey all my YouTube friends, this is Amy from RaisingArrows.net, and this is something new for me. I podcast, I don't know how many of you know that, but I do have a podcast, the Raising Arrows podcast. It's all about large family homemaking and homeschooling, and I am recording a podcast today, and I thought I'd bring you guys along for the ride so that you could get the information as well. But I would encourage you to head over to however you listen to podcasts and subscribe to the Raising Arrows podcast. I like to keep them short and sweet, and so I will also try to start videoing them as well. We'll see how that goes. It's a little tricky, but I'm going to try doing that so that they're also available here on YouTube. Hello friends, welcome to the Raising Arrows podcast. I'm Amy Roberts from RaisingArrows.net, and this is episode number 83, how to set up a simple homeschool schedule. So we're going to talk about the steps you need to take in order to set up a very simplistic homeschool schedule, one that you can consistently do day after day and doesn't involve a lot of extra work and a lot of extra energy from you. So the first thing I want you to do is choose a time of day that is the easiest for you to knock it all out in one go. Now that might be kind of scary to you because frankly, when we think about school, we think it must be like an 8-hour school day, and how in the world are we going to fit 8 hours of schooling into a normal day for us and manage to keep hold of the household and manage to do any work that we have to do ourselves and manage to do errands and chores and all of that stuff, doing an entire 8-hour school day from home? Well, I'm here to tell you that school doesn't take that long. I wrote a post a few years back called "How Many Hours Does It Take to Homeschool?" and I'm going to link to that in the show notes for you, but the truth of the matter is it does not take that long to homeschool. It really, for even your oldest students, it only takes about 3 to 4 hours for you to get all of their subjects in. For little kids, we're talking 30 minutes to an hour. It does not take a long time to homeschool. You have to kind of think outside the box, and we'll talk more about that as we go through how to set up this schedule, but I have lots of posts and lots of resources about this topic, so do some searching on the blog. Again, that's RaisingArrows.net, and you can find a lot of those resources. But let's kind of step back just a bit. If we're trying to fit in a block of about 3 to 4 hours, where is the best place for that to be in your day? Think really long and hard about this, because you may be tempted to say first thing in the morning, and then you realize that you have things you need to do first thing in the morning, and it's getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back until it's not in a very good place for you at all, because you were trying to put it in a place that wasn't great to begin with. So maybe you need to spend those morning hours doing chores, catching up on emails, working through household things, and then it might be the 3 to 4 hours you need to take in the afternoon. And shockingly, you can also homeschool in the evening. That is okay. You can take that 3 to 4 hour block in the evening. A lot of people say their kids aren't all that fresh by that time of night. They're just kind of starting to run down and such. My family's actually kind of the opposite. We are mostly made up of night owls. So the evening hours could potentially be a good time for us to homeschool. But we do in the morning homeschool. However, we wait several hours. We typically don't start until about 10 a.m. And those of you who've listened to this podcast for a while know that our usual schedule is about 10 a.m. It usually takes us about 2 hours and maybe some change for the older kids. And it's really done by that point. I'm completely done about lunchtime and we're good to go the rest of the afternoon afternoon is spent doing chores, errands. The kids are doing things that they're passionate about and interested in. And then in the evening, we're watching movies and hanging out as a family. So school really takes a very nominal amount of time in our lives, but it is something that I do believe needs to be done in one fell swoop. You do need to focus on it and not go back and forth between school and a chore and school and errands, and breaking it up where the kids seem a little disconnected and disjointed and the whole school day ends up thrown out the window because you can't keep it cohesive. So I would encourage you to try to find a block of time that has about 3 to 4 hours in it that you feel like you can really focus on schooling. Now here's the other beautiful thing about homeschooling. You don't have to do it all. I spend about an hour with our morning time in the morning, and that's the beginning of our day. That's my Bible time, history. We have some art appreciation and things like that that go into that section of the day. But it's an hour of me doing kind of a teacher intensive sort of work, and then from there the kids have independent work, and I'm just rotating through all of them, checking over their work. So consider, what are the things you need to actually be teaching, and what are the things that you could outsource to another program, to something on video, something on audio, a workbook, things like that, where you're not doing the bulk of the teaching. And that leads me into the way to order your subjects in order to make it easy for you to follow, for your kids to follow, and for you to check up on it. You need to look through the subjects that your kids are going to be doing and then put them in a logical order for you and for your children. So I have my morning time teacher intensive subjects that I'm doing with all of the kids together, and I have that done in a certain order. And it's just written on a sticky note, to be quite frank with you. It is not some extensive, beautiful schedule in some binder or planner or something. It's a sticky note stuck on the Kind Kingdom, which is the curriculum we are currently using. And I just stick it there and I write in the morning what I'm planning on doing that day with the kids. And the next day it's a new sticky note. So that's how, very involved my planner is. But it works for us. If you feel like you need to have a little bit more of a strict thought out schedule, feel free to do that. A lot of curriculum we use though has these already built in plans with them. The thing is, those don't always work for us to do that much stuff in a school day. So you need to be prepared to move things around and to adjust as needed. So from there, I also have sticky notes for each of my kids of the curriculum they're going to do in order. So some of my kids are probably going to do in order like math, phonics, their literature, and handwriting and typing, or something along those lines. It's in a specific order, and we're going to go through that order every single time we do school. Because that order never changes, it makes it very nice for us and for our students to keep track of everything. After a couple of weeks of doing particular subjects in an order, we quickly learn that order and we are able to do it pretty mindlessly. And so that is the fantastic thing about putting your subjects in an order. You also might want to keep a copy of each of your kids' schedules so that you can follow up with them. And that's the next step. Once you send them off to do their independent schoolwork, make sure, number one, you know where they are in the house so you can check up on them. And then make sure you know their schedule so that you can go wherever they are, check on them, make sure they're getting their schoolwork done. Ask them, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? You know what the schedule is, and they're not going to be able to slip something by you that they actually did it when they didn't do it. And then you just check up on them and you ask if they need any help, and you sit down and you look at the lessons they've been doing. Sometimes, especially with certain children, you don't want to just say, hey, did you do this? Because they will most likely tell you they did when they didn't. And you need to actually physically put eyes on the work, because as soon as you say, okay, well, let me see what you're doing, they're gonna backtrack, backpedal, and tell you, oh, wait a second, actually, I didn't do that. And that's your cue to realize that child probably needs you to check up on them a little bit more. But for the most part, you're just going to need to be making sure that they're getting their schoolwork done, and you know the order, they know the order, and it can be done over and over every single day. Okay, so a quick recap. You have a certain set time of day that it works to put school in. 3 or 4 hour block. If you have younger kids, you really only need an hour or two. And you know when that is, and you're always going to have school on that time frame. If you have some questions about how to get school started, listen to my podcast on anchoring your homeschool day. That will teach you some ideas for making sure that your homeschool day starts off on the right foot and everybody's together and working together and you're moving in the same direction together, because that's really imperative when it comes to getting your homeschool schedule to move in the right direction. And then from there, you are writing out the subjects that you need to be teaching the kids, so those teacher intensive subjects. And then you are writing out the subjects they're going to do individually so that you have track of your commitments and their commitments, and then you are able to rotate through your kids. So also consider, which kids do you want to check on first? Do you want to go from youngest to oldest, which is typically what I do? Do you need to go from oldest to youngest? Do you need to do an alternate kind of schedule where you're going from the child who struggles the most to the child who struggles the least? Figure out what order you're going to do, and then you're going to rotate through the kids, checking on their work as you go. And you're going to continue this rotation until the schoolwork is finished. Now, that doesn't mean you're constantly going from kid to kid. You can take breaks, but you are in a certain order, a certain routine, so that you know exactly what's going on at every moment of your homeschool. And then finish your day. Make sure your day has an ending point. I talk about that as well in the Anchors podcast, so take a listen to that. Now, I also want you to add in some fun stuff. Add in those fun little projects you're finding on the internet right now. Add in the Pinterest stuff and the things you've always wanted to do, but add them in on a rotating basis where you maybe make a list and then you just throw one in there as you can because you have the time for it. But try to make some time for those fun little things like nature walks, or just going outside and laying on the ground on a blanket to look up at the stars at night, or growing a little tiny herb garden. Make some time for those things. They really don't take as long as you think they do, and it makes it so much more special and so much more enjoyable. And make that something as like the icing on your cake, the dessert of your homeschooling, where you've done all the work and now we're all going to come together and finish our homeschool day with this fun little project. So I hope that helps you figure out how to put together a homeschool schedule that is very simple, that you can do very easily, almost mindlessly. There are some other posts on my blog about autopilot homeschooling, and there's a podcast and video about that as well. I'd encourage you to take the time to listen and read and watch those particular videos as well, because that's going to give you even more information about putting together a schedule that you can also stick to. And by the way, I have a new course coming out called Creating a Homeschool Schedule You Love. It will be ready very soon. It will go very in depth on how to put together a homeschool schedule that works, one that you can change as needed, and one that you really absolutely love and enjoy. It's not a drudgery. It's not trying to cause chaos in your home. It's a very good method of putting together a homeschool schedule. It has worked for us for years, and especially those of you who don't feel like you're very good at schedules, this is going to be a class that you are going to so enjoy, because it's going to finally take that burden of tight schedules off your shoulders, and you can begin to embrace who you are as a family with more of a routine and more of a flexible schedule that helps you. In that same vein, take a look at my books, Home Management for the Homeschool Mom. In that book, I talk about how to manage your home as a homeschool mom, because we have a very different life. We have to be at home all day long, and we have to homeschool the kids, and we have to manage the home. And sometimes that feels completely overwhelming. So take a look at that book and learn how to get that all in. And another resource for you that I think would be fantastic is a book I have called Flexible Homeschool Planning. And this is where I talk about how to put together a homeschool schedule that is extremely flexible. This is very good for those times when you are maybe living in crisis mode and you're not exactly sure how to put together a schedule that's going to work when your circumstances are feeling very chaotic. So take a look at that book as well. All of these these resources are linked in the show notes, and I am so excited to be able to bring these to you. Remember that Raising Arrows is your resource for large family homeschooling and homemaking, and I am here to help you. I'm available to you all at amy@raisingarrows.net, and I hope to see you again next time on the Raising Arrows podcast.